Everything fans thought they knew about Hudson and Rex is about to change, and not in a small, cosmetic way, but in a way that could reshape the entire identity of the show. Because after years of delivering that familiar and comforting rhythm of crime, loyalty, humor, and the unbreakable bond between Detective Charlie Hudson and his canine partner Rex, Season 9 is being set up as a major turning point. And the biggest clue didn't come from a random rumor or a wild fan theory. It came straight from someone who understands the heart of this series better than almost anyone, Mayko Nguyen, whose recent comments strongly suggest that the show is preparing to step out of its long-running comfort zone and into something deeper, heavier, and more emotionally grounded than what viewers have been used to. For a long time, Hudson and Rex has been a reliable series in the best way, a show that gave fans stability and reassurance, where no matter how intense a case became, there was always a sense of balance and warmth underneath it all, with characters who felt like a familiar team you could trust, and storylines that wrapped up neatly enough to let you breathe at the end of each episode. But according to Mayko, that safety net is starting to disappear, because Season 9 isn't aiming to repeat the same comfortable formula. It's aiming to push the characters forward in a way that feels more real and more human, exploring something crime shows often avoid. What happens when years of dangerous work stop being something you can simply shrug off and start becoming something you carry? Mayko made it clear that this shift isn't about forcing drama for the sake of attention, or pulling a shocking twist out of nowhere just to get people talking. It's about growth and realism, about acknowledging that people who spend years facing violence, fear, responsibility, and constant high-stakes decisions don't stay unchanged forever. And that kind of honesty is exactly what makes Season 9 feel like it could become the most important chapter the series has ever told. Because instead of treating emotional consequences like something temporary, the new season is expected to give them real weight, meaning the pressure will linger, the stress will show, and the team will no longer be able to reset perfectly after every case. Because the emotional toll starts to build, and it starts to shape their choices, their relationships, and even their sense of identity. One of the biggest changes Mayko hinted at involves the way the show will handle character relationships. Because in earlier seasons, those relationships often remain stable and reassuring, giving the audience comfort and familiarity. But Season 9 is set to test those bonds not through betrayal or sudden personality flips, but through something much more believable and difficult: emotional strain, unspoken fears, exhaustion, and hard choices that force honesty. Meaning partnerships that once felt unbreakable might start to crack simply because people are pushed afar for too long. And sometimes the most painful conflict doesn't come from someone doing something cruel. It comes from someone being tired, overwhelmed, or unable to express what they're going through. Mayko emphasized that this season will allow characters to feel more human by showing that they won't always have the right answers, they won't always be strong, and they won't always be able to carry everything without hesitation. There will be moments of doubt, fear, hesitation, and even quiet emotional distance. And instead of making those moments loud or overly dramatic, the writing will let them unfold naturally. Because that's how real life works. Pressure doesn't always explode. Sometimes it builds slowly through silence, through the look someone gives when they don't know what to say, through the pause that hangs too long in a conversation, or through the moment someone chooses to walk away instead of dealing with what they feel. Another major shift comes from the show's storytelling style, because according to Mayko, Season 9 will lean away from the traditional case of the week format and move toward ongoing arcs that connect episodes more tightly, which changes everything. Because while each episode may still have its own central mystery, the season won't just reset after the credits roll. Instead, actions will have long-term consequences, emotional conflicts won't vanish overnight, and small choices early on can echo later in ways the audience may not immediately notice, until everything starts connecting, and that gives the season more momentum, more continuity, and more emotional intensity. Because viewers will start realizing that every detail matters, every decision matters, and every reaction matters. This shift also creates more room for character exploration, because instead of treating emotional moments like quick side scenes before getting back to the next case, Season 9 can let those moments breathe, letting actors show complexity and slow transformation, characters becoming more guarded, more impulsive, more reflective, or even more uncertain about who they are and what they want. And that's exactly where Mayko's comments feel so powerful, because she described this season not as something that reinvents the show or changes it into something unrecognizable, but as something that lets the show mature naturally, respecting how far the characters have come and how much they've endured over the years. What makes this evolution stand out is that it doesn't rely on spectacle to keep attention. It relies on subtlety, on emotional truth, on moments where silence becomes just as meaningful as dialogue, where a glance can reveal more than a speech, and where the audience is trusted to interpret emotion instead of being told exactly what to feel. Mayko specifically suggested that Season 9 respects viewers enough to let them engage more deeply, rewarding attention and emotional investment rather than rushing toward easy answers. Another theme she hinted at is emotional fatigue. And this is where the season may feel most different, because the show will explore how exhaustion impacts judgment, how stress changes communication, and how the line between professional duty and personal life becomes harder to maintain the longer someone lives in high-pressure situations. Meeting characters who once handled everything with calm confidence may now start responding differently to familiar situations, becoming shorter, quieter, more hesitant, or more reactive. Not because they're suddenly weak, but because they're finally reaching that point where years of emotional control have a cost. And the season seems ready to admit that strength isn't just about staying composed. Sometimes strength is about facing what you've been avoiding inside. This also affects how the team functions together, because even strong teams can be tested by misunderstandings, by emotional withdrawal, and by the quiet tension that builds when people stop saying what they truly feel. And Mayko hinted that some moments may feel uncomfortable for viewers precisely because they reflect real struggles people often avoid talking about, which is exactly why they hit so hard. Because when relationships are portrayed in uncertain spaces, when trust is tested through silence, rather than betrayal, it becomes more complex and more meaningful, inviting viewers to read between the lines and notice what characters aren't saying, just as much as what they are saying. Season 9 also appears to be playing with pacing in a more intentional way, allowing scenes to linger just a little longer so emotions can settle, instead of being rushed toward resolution, creating an experience that feels more immersive and grounded, where tension grows through hesitation rather than explosions, and where progress comes through endurance rather than quick fixes. And perhaps the most important thing Mayko communicated is that Season 9 represents a true turning point for the series, not darker just for the sake of darkness, but deeper, more thoughtful, and more emotionally grounded, where hope isn't handed out through easy resolutions but earned through resilience, connection, and honest confrontation with what the characters carry. Which means this season could change the way fans see the show, because it asks viewers to care more deeply, pay closer attention, and see these characters not just as heroes who solve cases, but as people navigating complicated lives, carrying stress, making imperfect choices, and growing in ways that aren't always clean or comfortable. In other words, Hudson and Rex isn't losing its heart, it's letting that heart carry more weight. And if Mayko's words are any indication, Season 9 is not about playing it safe anymore. It's about evolution, honesty, and bold storytelling that honors what came before while refusing to stay trapped by it. And once this new chapter begins, the series may never be able to go back to the old formula again, because the changes aren't temporary, they're transformational. And that's what makes Season 9 feel like it could become the season that doesn't just deliver another set of cases, but redefines what Hudson and Rex can be.